Your show will go live in 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1.
I'm here.
Okay, we're going live. Right?
Yes.
Hello, and welcome back to another night show. Nice Jerry's Night Up, and we have Jerry here with us. Welcome to the show, Jerry.
Hey there, Bill.
How's it going there?
Not bad. You know, it's funny. I was watching your video, and stop it there for a second because you're talking about the alpha and beta waves and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it occurred to me that the way they classify different brain types and different subjects in the MK Ultra program is by alpha, beta, and I believe I forgot what the other one was. It wasn't theta; it was something else. So it's funny how different brain types in the alpha and beta and whatnot, but that can also correspond with MK Ultra.
Oh yeah, definitely. You know, and
intentional.
Well, I think it is intentional. You know, I look at the situation for what it is. When I did that video, I let him on. I wanted to show the frequencies and the different waves and what they've been doing. And I like that you sent me a link on DARPA, and I've known about DARPA for a long time now. Yeah, they mind control. That's correct. That's exactly what it is. It's about mind control. Yeah. But I guess my main thing was to try to get the point across to people, to point it out to them. For a lot of people don't know. I mean, they don't realize like chemtrails for one. Everywhere they've done tests behind chemtrails on the ground, the aluminum in the ground, the soil, the numbers are through the roof. It's not normal, okay? That's because they're spraying aluminum and barium. But you know, that's why I pointed out in the video, the aluminum, well, that's like making a gigantic TV antenna from back in the day when you had a TV antenna in your roof. Except for this TV antenna covers the length of the whole country. This way they can use analog and they can push frequency through the aluminum in the air, and they can use frequency. I mean, they can heat up the atmosphere, they can push frequency through it. And then I brought up the lead paint. See, in 1978 they made it so that all the homes that were built after 1978 was not allowed to use lead paint, and the manufacturers had to take the lead out of the paint. Okay? They didn't want that on the residential homes no more. And the phony baloney excuse they gave everybody was lead poisoning. The children were eating worn out paint that was peeling and falling off, and they're breathing in the dust and blah, blah, blah. It was all a bunch of BS. That was a complete lie. There's a really good reason they didn't want the lead in the paint. Because a lot of the homes, especially the older ones, had 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 coats of paint on it, and they all had lead in it. Well, when you went to the emergency room and they took you to x-ray, the first thing they did was put a lead vest over you, and then went off the room and went behind a thing in another room, and that room they do the x-rays in is the only room that has lead lined. And you're wearing a lead lined vest to protect you from what? Uh-huh. So the real reason they took the lead out of the paint and they don't want it on the homes no more wasn't because of our health and our children's health, because they don't care about your health. The real reason was to remove the lead barrier between you and their frequencies.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. I mean, I never really even thought about it until you said something, but it makes too much sense. You know, I mean, it makes so much sense. You know, it's funny is even if I look back at it I never ever heard of one kid that got lead poisoning or, anybody that got lead poisoning. So where are these people that got lead poisoning? I don't know where they are. I never heard of one. It's only what they told us. And what we're told from these places like the National Institute of Health or the CDC or any of these other agencies that we've known to lie to us for so long and so much. So why would we believe them about anything else? Why should we believe them about anything? If it's like calling wolf.
Well, it is. Jerry, it's like this sort of, I was thinking, and I looked into this a long time ago, and it just dawned on me the other day. And when I was talking to Jerry, and so I told him, okay, because I'd already done a video on this years back, but of course, I lost my channel, I lost all of my videos, lost all of my work. I didn't have an external hard drive at the time, so gone. All of my work was gone. You know how YouTube is. They love to take your work away from you. So anyhow, when they took my channel down that time, I lost it, okay? So I made another one today, okay? No big deal. But the thing is let's just think about cancer for one moment. When I was a child, cancer was here then. And they were asking for donations looking for a cure for cancer then. Well, do you know that I'm going to be 57 here next week? So that means 50 years ago they were asking for donations and looking for a cure for cancer then. And here we are 50 years later, they're still asking for your donations. They're still looking for a cure. No, they're not looking for a cure. They already know what causes cancer. Matter of fact, when you get chemotherapy, that only helps to spread the cancer and creates more of it. They're not going to tell you that. This is nothing but a big eugenics program. That's why, I'll go back and say it again. Animals are smarter than humans. Animals don't conspire to kill one another off through eugenics programs. They won't lie to you and shoot radiation into your body to kill you. They're not going to spread aluminum in the air and create a TV antenna across the whole United States to use for frequencies to attack you. Now your homes ain't got lead lining on it no more, so you can be attacked inside your houses. Let's look at the smart meters. They started putting smart meters on your house, so that's the way the frequencies coming through the door that way. People are getting sick. Jerry brought up some interesting points about this. They've been studying the mind and working on brain control, mind control for neons now. I'll bet you they can use this to put thoughts in your head. What do you think, Jerry?
Yeah, I think, well, that was proven, I think, 8 or 9 years ago in China, where they sent a signal all the way across the country into people's heads. And that's when they introduced it to the public that they're able to do this. So if China's been able to do this, almost 10 years ago, I'm sure we have the capabilities and probably have had the capabilities for over 20 years. Now,
exactly.
Because of the complexity of each individual brain, from what I'm reading, just like that article in DARPA about DARPA, is most effectively they're changing brainwave patterns because it's kind of, I guess it would be hard to get each individual. You can't, when you think about it, you don't want every single person to think the same thing because that can cause a problem too, and it'd be hard to personalize who's going to get what. But if you could change like an entire city's mood or a certain area's mood, so they're fighting or, there's more problems. And then in some other areas, they're more relaxed or whatever. They can really affect how people live their lives. Think about it. If you are an everyday family, the stress of having a family and kids and everything else, and then all of a sudden they're shooting mood frequencies into your home. Next thing you know, you're fighting with your spouse, and the whole family is in jeopardy. And next thing you know, maybe it changed the mood so much you struck out and hit your kid. Next thing you know, you're going to court, they're taking the kid. Who knows what could be happening. So the influence on society with electronic control is very scary, because we know what they've been doing with it on a sociological level on just people, through their mass MK Ultra type programming and mass social engineering. Now, if they can just turn the dial and change the way society is, that's very scary.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Now, I'm not saying lead poison doesn't exist, but let me tell you something. Little Squirrel says that sounds way out there. Well, it may sound way out there, but maybe you should go look up DARPA. Maybe you should read some of the programs that's actually really going on. Okay? And as far as thinking, I'm not saying lead poison doesn't exist. I don't buy this.
You eat lead. You can eat just about anything that's not supposed to be in your body. You're going to get sick from it.
Exactly.
So lead is probably not a good idea.
No.
Neither is eating any kind of paint.
And I understand what she's saying about children, but I understand this. That's not the real reason they took the lead out of the paint. I'll guarantee you that's not the real reason at all. Okay, if they really cared about your children's health as much as they claim they do, then they wouldn't be overseas killing children over there. Oh, well, that's their children. That's not an excuse. You talk about a cop-out. So let's kill somebody else's children, just not your own, huh? Let's look around you. So let's look at the reality. Cancer. You have you had 3 different doctors that came in this country. Belinsky's one of the most famous. He had people from all over the country coming to his battle. He saved children's life. He saved adults' lives. He saved life after life after life. Just to get attacked by the FDA and Big Pharma and taken to court until they took his license away from him. So it's not about saving lives. It's about killing people. And lead, you go to an emergency, you go to an x-ray, what do? It's a lead-lined room in the hospital. They put a lead vest on you, and the technician even leaves the room to push the buttons. Okay? So think about that. That lead is a protecting barrier. Well, go ahead, Jerry.
Well, you know what? If people really got sick, if lots and lots of people got sick from lead poisoning, if it was a very common thing, they would not do anything about it because it works along with their eugenics program.
Well,
that's good for the medical business.
Well, vaccinations is just another one. You see what little squirrel's saying?
Yeah.
No, I agree with her. Vaccinations are killing people, but you need to understand there's a whole lot more methods of killing people. They're not just using one. This has been going on for neons.
Yeah, I think I told her before when I was in college and I was engineering interning engineering at a local radio station that was pretty big. It was a 50,000 watt radio station, and we transmitted our signal to the closest mountain to be broadcast via a microwave on top of the roof of the building. And I remember going up there with the engineer one day and him screaming at me, not to stand in front of the microwave antenna, because it'll roast my nuts off or whatever the hell he was saying. So we're up there, and he says, watch this. And he says, it's only going to shut the radio station off for a half a second. And he takes the microwave antenna and quickly turns it at the bank across the street and quickly turns it right back. 1 second later, the bank alarm starts going off and the cops start coming. And then we just casually walk downstairs. Microwaves are very powerful, and people don't understand. And it's not, it's the type of wave, depending on the type of wave in the microwave spectrum, you could transmit a lot of information, okay? But the thing about it is microwave, it's more of a direct signal. That's why when you see these antennas that are up there, they're in a pyramid shape, or they're all around in a circle, because they only go in a direct line and a small spectrum base. But within that space, that signal, the microwave is well, like they call it, just because they call it a microwave. Micro means small. There's short wave pattern, so it's a small wave. But within that wave, it can carry more information than the long wave. Okay? So when you're talking about microwaves, you could be transmitting a shitload of information and adjusting the frequency. It can pass right through you and mess with your own body frequency and everything else. But it's not just carrying a radioactive or a heat source by heating it up by cooking the what happens with a microwave. This is the way a microwave basically works. When you put food in the microwave, what it does is it cooks the water molecules. It heats up the water molecules by speeding them up. So the water molecules are speeding up so fast that they start steaming. All right. And that starts cooking and it creates heat because those molecules are moving so fast. So think about all those microwave antennas and everything else that's out there. Every time you walk by them, what's your body made of? What, 80% water? So that shit's just speeding up the molecules and messing with everything else. But it's not just doing that. Within those frequencies, it can also carry information. So when you're talking about large quantities of digital information, you're getting hit two ways. You're getting destroyed at a molecular level, and you're getting hit at an information level. So microwaves are a very dangerous thing.
I don't watch TV.
It makes it actually you want to think about it. I mean, now if you don't have a child that's going to lick the paint off the walls, maybe lead paint might not be a bad idea. If you're going to be able to put up a shield, or how about maybe getting some lead sheeting? I mean, I'm not saying we got to go all out nowadays because you can't afford all these things, but what I'm saying is Bill, I think, is right. Like you said, after a year, if you have an old house and, a 100-year-old house, and every 10 years is getting coated with, a coat of lead paint, it built up a nice barrier to protect against things like that. But back then they didn't have their microwaves, so it wasn't a big deal. Now they have them. Right when that technology, at the time the technology was starting to advance, they're telling everybody they can't use it anymore. So it does make a lot of sense.
Well, you had, I'm trying to remember. I remember when microwaves first come out. I was still a kid, and it was in the 70s. Okay, when microwave ovens first come out. And they've been studying mind control for years and years and years. And microwaves have been around since I was a child. They came out in the 70s, I do know that. And it was 78 when they took the lead out of the paint and made a big fucking deal out of lead poisoning in children and all that stuff. But if you really look into it, the lead poisoning wasn't as great as they pushed it to be. And everything they do has been planned for years and years and years and years in advance to begin with. So, it's one of these things that they have more than one agenda behind what they're doing here to begin with. When they took the analog TV away from you and gave you digital, there's a reason they wanted the analog freed up and not being used. That wasn't just to give you digital because it's better for your health. They wanted the analog wave freed up for their use.
Well, if I remember what happened, and this is just from when I was in the radio business. I remember the problem with basically digital or microwave and analog. In other words, you can't put analog next to microwave, okay? Because it basically will ground out the microwave, and the analog will take over. So in other words, it's like the shorter wave can't go through the longer wave type of thing, if I remember correctly. Okay, and the AM has the long wave, and the AM radio or AM signal basically makes like a loop. It makes a loop in one direction. So if you have a big loop of analog that covers a whole big area of a city or whatnot, you can't shoot microwave through there. Okay, so they have to get rid of that, so that they can shoot through it.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why they've pretty much done away with AM. Now you don't hear much of that anymore, and if they do, it's at a low power. Back in the day, you used to have AM stations that were at a very high power. Now you don't.
That's it. That's exactly it, and what they're really doing with the chemtrails is more than one project. These chemtrails ain't just to heat up the atmosphere up above us, okay? It's also being used because they're spraying aluminum. So they can use it now because aluminum's a great conductor. So now they can use the aluminum that's in the sky that they sprayed there.
And they're also using lithium in the sky too, which is also another great conductor.
Exactly. So now they'll push frequencies through that in the air, and people are being attacked. This is actually a weapon. It's a weapon. That's exactly what they're doing. They've turned this stuff into weapons, and they're using them against us. And of course they are. People think they wouldn't do that. Yes, they are. They've been doing that for years. I mean, a TV set could have been the greatest invention ever invented. But it's not. Because it's been used as a weapon against the people. People,
yeah, they really, what they call it is the space fence, is what they try to tell the public. And some of the supposed secret information that it's a better way that the military can communicate, and they can use it as an energy source for a new type of technology, and they may very well be able to do that. But that doesn't mean they can't also use that type of energy against us. Because when you're filling the sky, it's basically making the sky electric. Turning it into one big giant antenna. That's something we walk through every day. I mean that's when they spray that stuff in the sky, it falls down. So it's not just the upper atmosphere that's turning into a space fence. It's our whole atmosphere that's basically turning into it.
Mm-hmm. Jerry, I do believe we have Bruce with us. So I'm going to bring him in. 201, you're on.
How you doing?
Hey, Bruce.
How are you, Jerry?
Good.
Hey, good to hear from you guys. I know it's been a while, but it's been a little busy.
It's been John, yep. It's been a long time.
Bruce made the trip with me to do the Sandy Hook protest, and he got to see, I think, mind control at its very best.
Yeah, and we have John with us. I wasn't sure it was John or Bruce because they share the same area code there.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, so is this Bruce or John?
Hello.
Hello. What did you say? What was your question?
Oh, I thought you were Bruce.
No, this is John.
No.
Oh, same area code. So he must be from the New Jersey area.
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, New Jersey.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, well, that's what everybody says. I mean, it depends on what exit, I guess, right?
Well, John, so you...
I don't know, Go ahead, Bill.
So you've been listening. How long have you been listening?
When I was listening, you guys were talking about the lead in the paint in homes that are 100 years old, like a long time. You were talking about lead.
Yes.
And Jerry was talking about microwave frequencies.
Right. Well, I talked about lead because I brought that up a while back. I did a video on this years ago, but of course it ain't out now because that was on one of my channels that got stripped down before I had my external hard drive. But The lead, the reason I brought up the lead, John, is because they sprayed the sky with chemtrails. We all know that they're putting aluminum, barium, and aluminum in the chemtrails. Okay? So, you can now use the aluminum in the sky through the chemtrails to put frequencies through it. And if you went into an emergency room or an x-ray room and they used gamma ray, okay, which is still a frequency, and they take an x-ray snapshot of you, don't they put a lead vest on you? Ain't that room always lined with lead? And the technician always leaves the room to push the button? Now that's in all the hospitals. Well, you know, that's what the lead was doing for the house. Once you got enough coats of lead paint on your house, it did the same thing. It protected you. But you ain't got that protection no more.
Yeah, I remember you also mentioned about donations, about how people were collecting donations for the cure for cancer for the past 50 years, and they still haven't found a cure. I mean, at least that's what they say. You know?
Well, I know that's true because that was when I'm going to be 57 here in a week from now. So I've been on the planet for at least 50 years, right? And I can remember when I was a little kid, they were looking for a cure for cancer then. And they were taking donations for it then.
Well, I mean, if you look at the statistics, you know, back in the, before the 1920s, even in that time where we had the Industrial Revolution and there was a lot of toxins in the air and everything else, the cancer rate was very low, extremely low. I think it was somewhere under 20% or something like that. It was so, you know, the cancer rate being what it is today, it has risen astronomically. So there's only one conclusion is that there's something else that is causing this cancer besides just the toxins in the air and everything else. Because, you know, back in the, you know, the late age of the Industrial Revolution, you know, have you ever seen pictures of the rivers, you know, literally being polluted like heck and everything else? So the pollution was out there. But the difference, I think, is before 1920, we didn't have, believe it or not, we didn't have the radio waves. We didn't have the frequencies in the air like they, you know, they did after that time. You know, we didn't start really getting into where everybody had a radio and there was lots of transmissions going on until after the 1920s. So, I mean, you can look at it as also, you know, that maybe some of these frequencies and maybe some of these, you know, things do cause cancer.
They've already discussed the fact that cell phone usage, if you always have your cell phone against your ear and all that, that would, over time, do some damage, bodily damage.
Yeah. I don't think
it's understandable.
Yeah, it's understandable. I'm quite sure that those type of things, you know, because here's the things are, in theory, our bodies should adjust to the inhabitants of life. So, you know, our bodies have probably built up a better immune system to that type of radiation that comes from electronic devices than if somebody was alive in the 1920s would have. If they were around today, it would probably destroy them right away. But it's still not keeping up with the strength of what they're putting out there. You know, and I mean, we're getting, like Bill says, a lot of this is eugenics. Basically, we're getting hit from no matter which way you look at it, we're getting poisoned. You know, we're getting poisoned from frequencies, we're getting poisoned from the air, we're getting poisons from the food, the water, vaccines, you name it, we're getting poisoned in one way or another. You know, that's a shitty part of it. Bill's big thing is, you know, I think it made a lot of sense that, you know, people had left up lead paint in their house, that could help with a lot of, you know, external transmissions. In theory, imagine if somebody had a house that was lead painted and then on the inside they used no electronic devices. I bet their chances of survival are a lot better than if they had the electronic devices in the house and had no lead paint. You know?
That's true. I mean,
I'd rather take my chances with, getting lead poisoning because I don't plan on eating the paint than I think it would be worth.
You didn't have all the electronics when I was growing up. When I was growing up, you didn't have cell phones. You didn't have computers. There was no such thing as Wi-Fi. You didn't have 90% of the electronics around here now did not even exist.
Yeah. I mean, I just imagine what everybody has. I mean, think about now. I mean, nowadays, how many people out there have their Wi-Fi on 24/7? I know I do. I know I shouldn't, but I know I do. So there's constant, radiation being spewed all over the house right there. And now they have things that will boost your Wi-Fi and everything else. So
they call that a router. I have a router sitting right next to my modem that has a router built into it, and both of them are being used.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's out there, I mean, and, everybody's got it. You turn on your microwave, everybody's got it, I mean, and it's funny is like if you look at a microwave, it's shielded by a metal box on the inside, but the window has the Faraday cage in it. Okay? Now, there's still hinges and everything else. Every microwave does leak a lot of microwave radiation out of it. So, that's, those are a poison box. And the American industry doesn't, whatever industry regulates the microwaves or whatever else. I think it would be the FCC, actually. I think a lot of times when you see a microwave, if you look at the stamp on it, it has a SEC regulation. I can guarantee you don't see the FCC man walking around microwave factories too often. So I highly doubt even that's regulated that well.
Well, I'll bet you even if they have standards that they're supposed to be going by, because they're government-controlled, corporate-controlled bankers and so on, with the criminals we have running this world right now, that wouldn't mean nothing to them. They could just lie to the public and say it meets such code when it don't. So unless you have the way of testing it to see what it's putting out, you would not know.
Even the Earth gives off a background radiation. Everything radiates. That's what our whole magnetosphere is. That's what protects us from. Here's the thing about. We live in a weird world. The sun has a magnetosphere, right? And it creates magnetic energy. And what it does is gives off radiation, really intense radiation. But that radiation basically causes the Earth to create its own magnetosphere, and that magnetosphere actually protects us from the sun's radiation. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I honestly think they're playing with fire when they're trying to create their own magnetosphere in a way. How much do we know that is that going to interfere with the Earth's magnetosphere? We knew that pure play energy could be taken from the Earth itself. We didn't need to create its own magnetosphere. We can use the one that's already there protecting us. But they want to use it, I think, for more nefarious purposes than what the nature would allow. And that's what we're getting. Is, we're getting this new space fence.
That's it. I don't know, because a lot of people in today's society, they wasn't around when all the lead scare went on with the kids, okay? Now, I'm not saying there wasn't some children that got lead poisoning whatsoever, okay? I'm not saying that. I'm saying that was not the main reason they took the lead out of the paint. The main reason the lead was removed from the paint was because they didn't want you having lead buried on your house. because they already knew what they were going to be doing. And they wanted their frequencies to penetrate your house.
And then the question was, is Verizon the FCC? No, the FCC is the Federal Communications Commission, and that's like the FAA or one of our other three-letter agencies. And Zach's right. Verizon was on the lead on a lot of this microwave transmission shit. They were pushing the 5G thing pretty hard. Think about Verizon, because I had a friend that actually worked on cell phone towers. Is they own the majority of the cell phone towers in the United States. Doesn't matter what carrier you are, even if you have a different carrier, or if you have Sprint or something else like that. That doesn't mean Sprint has their own particular towers. What they're doing is they're basically leasing off of the towers that Verizon has. Okay, and when so just because you have a different cell phone company doesn't mean they have a different tower. They're still leasing off of the majority of Verizon, because Verizon owns the majority of towers. In theory, Verizon should be much cheaper than what it is, because they seem to be one of the most expensive carriers, but yet they're the owners of the majority of towers. Just like SBC owns most of the majority of telephone poles and stuff like that. It's very, they all have their thing, and Verizon's thing is owning the majority of towers in the United States.
Yeah.
People don't realize that's how. What's his name? Branson over there, the one that owns Virgin Airlines and Virgin Telephone. That's how he got rich originally, is by investing in the airwaves and buying and selling the airwaves for cell phones, and that's how he got very wealthy. And that's another thing I think about too sometimes is, when you own your own property and everything else, which we know you don't really ever own, but you're supposed to own 100 feet over your house, and like you own so many feet below the ground and you own so many feet above your house. Well, if they're doing this to the atmosphere, I mean, in theory, if they got waves that are traveling past your house or through your airspace that you supposedly own, don't you have a right to bill them for it? That's what we need. We need people like that to start suing people like Verizon and saying, "Hey, if you're shooting your waves through my airspace and my home, if there's a direct line from one of your antennas to the highway, and your house is in between it, should I be getting some kind of royalty for using my airspace?" And that's the kind of lawsuits we need. We need to start going after people like that, because they're just taking advantage of all the even though we don't own our properties and everything else like that. It's the thought of it that we are the king of our castle, that we have our own domain. So we need to restrict what these people are doing, whether they're digging tunnels under our property or they're shooting airwaves over it. I mean, I would like to think that I have a right to the ownership of whatever it is over my house.
Yeah. Well, Jerry, there's something else that Jerry wanted to talk about tonight, and I think probably now would be a good time to bring that up as well. How can people...
Yeah, man.
Yep, MK Ultra. Go ahead.
I wanted to get into the MK Ultra thing because, I've had a few people talking, asking me about, how do you know somebody's MK Ultra and everything else. So I'm going to tell a quick story of a little bit of what happened in Kalamazoo. When it's almost like I kind of went undercover myself when I started seeing things going on really weird. I literally dug really deep into the community, into the history, into everything else, and started making friends with people that didn't seem right. And I kind of understood the MK Ultra program, and I looked for signs and family histories that resembled these people, and started learning a little bit more about these people. And I didn't always tell them I was learning, but that's I kind of looked at myself as like an amateur sociologist, and because I wanted to know more. So I learned more about the local psychiatric hospitals. I learned more about some of the history of Kalamazoo and everything else. And I started almost experimenting with some of these people on, sitting them down and talking to them, and digging at certain things to draw out different personalities and everything else. So, I do understand a little bit about some of these people that have been through intense programs, and I could tell you a couple things that have come up where it was something almost over and over again, it repeated with certain people that I thought were MK Ultra. And one of the biggest things I found was they were all orphans. They were either adopted or, something like that, or they lived with foster parents or whatever the situation was. The majority of people that I thought were MK Ultra were foster kids or adopted. And so that's one sign that if people are looking for, they may think maybe a friend or a relative or whatever may be MK Ultra. And I'm not saying that all of them are. I'm not saying that every person that's been adopted or was a foster kid is MK Ultra. I'm just telling you, in the group of people that I was around, I came up with this over and over again. I also saw some erratic behavior, of course, that was natural, but there was almost like splits. Something would trigger a split, and sometimes it was something literally. Oftentimes, believe it or not, you would hear almost a voice change. And the more I studied it, I started to understand this. There was, when they do the MK Ultra program, they create a split. All right, and that split is usually triggered in a self-protection time. When they're on the defense of something or feel like they're cornered, and you usually have to have them alone and corner them about a personal issue and get that part out of them. Okay, so that's another sign to look for when you look at MK Ultra. But it really did bother me the most. I think that I saw it so often. And the other thing I was seeing is a lot of them were gay. Part of the LGBT community, whatever you want to call it these days. A lot of them were gay. So I started to come up with certain things. I started to see a split behavior, foster or adoption, and the LGBT thing was really big with these people. And the LGBT thing wasn't with everybody, but it was probably the majority of people that I dealt with that I thought were MK Ultra. So that was another big thing to look for. Okay, I'm trying to think what else I came across when it came to that type of thing, because every time I start talking about it, I think about these people, and it was like, I made some good friends and whatnot, but just thinking what they went through. I even saw oftentimes. As I learned about them, and I hate talking too much about it, but most of them had some kind of rape or molestation in their childhood. And the more I read about the MK Ultra program, I'm realizing that's their thing. They were looking for people before the age of 5, and they had to have a traumatic experience between usually they wanted to have it under 3 years old, but definitely before 5 years old. And if you think about it, you got an orphan or a foster kid, forcing the traumatic experience of a sexual abuse is literally like perfect for the people that are doing these programs. So I started to see these certain things, and it's really scary what they do. And I come to find that, there's always mass social engineering, and in theory, there's a mass MK Ultra program going on now. But when you get into the people that had suffered from this stuff a lot deeper, it was very scary to see these rough lifestyles that these people went through at a very young age, and it just blew me away. Every time I think about it, it just takes me off in another direction because it was something else, Bill. I mean, I don't know how to explain it. It was scary to see that this is going on.
Well, we're in a situation where they're using every form they can, and people's just not seeing it. And I thought the lead thing was important to bring up to people because the fact is the facts. You cannot trust anything you're being told to begin with. Okay, and lead paint, I'm not saying there wasn't children who wouldn't put the lead paint in their mouth because we know that would be true. But I don't buy that was the main reason they done it, because you can't say, well, we were worried about our children's health. If you were so worried about your children's health, you wouldn't have run a doctor out of business and saving your children's lives from cancer, now would you?
Oh, that's the thing. I've been being disabled. I was basically, from the time I was born to my teenage years, I was almost in the hospital, every other month. So I spent a lot of time in the hospitals growing up, with my legs and everything else. And I don't trust hospitals worth a damn. I don't trust doctors worth a damn. I don't trust hospitals worth a damn. Usually the people in the hospitals I usually liked were like the, cleaning man or whatever like that. So.
Yeah, well, I think we're living in a very dangerous time. We're living in a time where they're going to be putting thoughts in people's heads. And people, people are going to be.
I'll get believe them.
Say what?
I got another troll.
Oh, well, yeah. Jerry's been being hit with trolls. Most of the trolls Jerry's being hit by are mad at Jerry because he didn't go to Sandy Hook. He went to Connecticut. He carried out the protest. He just didn't go to Sandy Hook so that the troll could find him.
Well, he didn't go to.
Jerry's scared to hell out of this guy because this guy's one of the 10 parents of a child that didn't die, who's costing a lot of money.
Yeah, they're just so pissed off that I went and did this. They're so pissed off. I don't understand why. Well, I do understand that they don't want this to turn into a thing. They are just very pissed off.
Well, that's
pissed off.
It's like I was talking to Jerry earlier today. You can have a site like 153 where they want to have truthers come there and they want truth. You can have whatever site you want full of truth. You can have all the information you want. But if you're not going to do anything with the information to stop what's going on, then the information is useless.
Yeah.
And, I don't care what people say, the information becomes useless then. This trial, this Jack and Jerry, is because this guy collected a whole lot of money lying to the world saying he had a kid that died in a closed down school. And he's worried that if something starts up like what Jerry's starting, then he could be held accountable and have to pay back money and go to jail. Well, he should be held accountable. And he should have to give back the money, and yes, he should go to jail. Because every one of the people involved in that committed treason on their own people in this country for their own pocketbook. And if you don't start holding people accountable for what they're doing, then
listen to this one, Bill. Listen to this one. Getting arrested in Newtown would have been big news. You lack commitment. I would love to have you hung by your fake legs over my fireplace next time.
Oh, there you go. Uh-huh. And then was that on 153? Or was that on Facebook?
That's on 153.
I would screen capture that and send it to Jason.
Oh, I did. I already did.
See, that right there is worthy. That's right there. That kind of stuff right there. That person needs to be gone.
Well, they came in as a guest. It's the same guy. It's
yeah,
the same guy.
Pretty sad that has to happen, but there you go. See, Jerry got up and went out and done something. And that's what I'm talking about. That's what I've been wanting people to do. Because we have to do something if we're going to stop these people. And if we don't do anything, then you're not going to stop them. And you can have all the information in the world, but the information is useless if you're not willing to do anything with it.
Yeah. Well, you know what, man? I mean, that's what they're pissed off. They're pissed off that I did it, and they don't want it to turn into something. What if it turned into something? You want to know what? It only encourages me more to make sure that next time we go back with 20 or 50 or 100 people or whatever we could possibly get. You know, we'll wait till it warms up a little bit. We'll build up as many people as possible, and then we'll nail them. And then we'll be out there in front of their face again. They didn't like it when we were there. Trust me. I'm pretty sure a couple people called the cops. At the end of the time, that's why we got out of there. We had like 5 people in the parking lot just staring at us with their phones. We were like, oh, shit.
Well, I'm staring at you with their phones, you know. You get enough people there that can stare at you with their phones, the police can come. And we'll make sure everybody's filming the cops while they're there.
Yeah. Why do they stalk me? You know, I mean, I'm not into men, and it's always men that are stalking me. Why can't, like, you know, all these beautiful women be stalking me? It always seems like old men.
Jesus, remember?
Why would I want? Oh, I don't want no old men stalking me. It's just weird, you know. But who does that? Think about who does that. You know, I mean, who the hell stays home at night? I mean, think about, what was it, like 10 pages or 11 pages the last 2 days that they created just to, you know, stock accounts they created just to troll me, I counted?
Well, you know what happened, Jerry? They realized, you know what happened, don't you, Jerry?
What?
They realized you was the Messiah.
I must have. Oh, they got issues. I mean, even if I was pissed at somebody, I don't think I could stay home and obsess about, like, and troll them all. I don't understand. To me, I guess maybe because I'm not mentally ill, I don't understand how these people do it. But I mean, they have to be severely mentally ill to, like, just be obsessed with somebody. You know, over me going to Sandy Hook. Why would you have an obsession over that? Okay, that makes no sense. You know, like, even if we live in America, even if it was a difference of opinion of whatever the issue is, you believe kids died, I don't believe they died. Whatever. That doesn't mean you should obsess about it to the point of insanity. You know, and that goes to show you that these Sandy Hook people are like the scum of the earth. Think about it. You know, if you heard what I said, what he wrote, are you telling me that these people that want gun control, these people that want to stop the violence, say things like that? Sounds like to me that these are the scum of the earth that are involved with the Sandy Hook shooting. So even if the shooting really did happen, the behavior of these people is so sickening, they still need to be arrested.
It's disgusting. Okay, but you know, we know the shooting didn't happen. So when they say, well, I know a kid that was blah blah blah, and Jerry says, well, you know, like in McDonald's, that colored guy, he right away you saying, well, here's $100,000. You know, a kid that died, here's $100,000. I don't want that $100,000. Just get away from me.
It was funny. It was really interesting, though. I don't know if I didn't really get a chance to tell people on here, but when we were in the San Diego area, the people are wealthy. They all have money. Okay, I'm talking. They have money like well, which is really disturbing if you really look at it. The people and families that live in that area, they were never poor. These were wealthy people. Okay, you have to be wealthy to live in that area. And they were very resistant to what we had to say, of course, you know. And I'm also going to tell you something too about that. We can get into those towers we found too. But when we drove out of town and went, further down to Bridgeport, where the poor area, and I knew it too. I said to Bruce, I said, you know what? He's like, oh, let's go hand out some flyers somewhere else because we were, it was getting kind of sketchy there for a minute. So we went down to Bridgeport. I said, man, I bet you if we go to the poor area, they'll listen better. And you know what happened? The poor people listened. Not only did they listen, they knew it was fake. We had that one old couple that actually said they thought everybody knew. So this old couple assumed that everybody knew it was fake. And and I didn't even know where to begin with that one, because it was such a nice old couple. And I'm like, oh, I mean, it's because they were asleep, but they knew it was fake, and it was just they were such a nice couple. I didn't want to change their point of view on anything or whatever because they seemed like a nice, happy couple, and it was really, really interesting to see the whole sociological aspect of there being a big division between the poor and the rich on how they thought about these things. The poor can understand that the government would screw them over, and the rich, their belief is right in, whatever they're told, they go along with the system. And I think a lot of that has to do with, you're living a nice lifestyle, you're living in a nice house, you have a nice car, and life is good. Why would you want to disturb that? I better just keep on going along with the agenda. I think that's a little bit of the cognitive dissonance in there. It's socially engineered that, this is the lifestyle. We go along with, the Joneses. We want to have a nicer, convertible than the neighbor or whatever. And we're not going to go against the narrative. It's already built up in their mind that way. Mm-hmm. While down in the poor areas, the ghetto, whatever you want to like to call it, they could see, guys, man, we're always getting screwed. The government's always screwing us, Well, so it's a whole different way of looking at it, I guess.
It is. I mean, but that is true, though.
Yeah.
I see a little squirrel, so she got out there and she's talking, and then you'd be proud of her. I remember she read a comment, and Jerry'd be proud of her. Okay, it's the first time ever talking to her. Okay, now everybody's gonna think she's nuts. Well, she's gonna be nuts because she's spreading around what's really going on.
So, yeah, I mean, this is what I tell people, and because a lot of people want to go out there and wake everybody up, and in some cases, I think people are not always meant to be awake. The cognitive dissonance is there maybe for a reason, for self-protection or whatever else, because maybe they mentally can't handle it or whatever it is. But we're also in a situation where YouTube and things like that got taken over. So when you're waking people up, there's a good chance that they haven't, seen everything. They're not fully awakened or whatnot. So they're waking up right into the hands of all these shills, all these people that are just, the deceivers out there, the turn agents that are giving them truth, but they're only there to lead them down the wrong path. So, I don't always think it's the best to share everything out there because, we want everybody to wake up, but are we waking them up and putting them in a position where they, are going to go down the wrong path? And that's only going to be another problem too. Because like even when me and Bill researched into the Fetzer Institute, they had a program called the Awaken Program. It was almost like designed to wake people up. But I think they want to wake them up so they can bring them into this new religion of Thelma, or Zach knows more about it than I do. They want to bring them more into the New Age religion and all these New Age ideas. And being awake makes somebody more vulnerable to that. So, I mean, it's great that we want to wake everybody up and we want to share all the information. But I always like to do is leave it as like a seed for somebody. You can give them the information. You don't argue with. And if they're meant to wake up, maybe they're meant to wake up from the information you gave them.
Well, you have to also go.
No reason to be sharing everything all crazy. That sounds all crazy and everything right away.
Yeah, well, you also have to go with this, Jerry.
Yeah.
There's more than one kind of awake. There's awake to the truth, and then there's awake to the propaganda that they're going to feed you. You're talking about the Fetcher Institute.
Yeah, that's the thing. They're ready for people to be awake. They knew there was an awakening happening. So, it's... And they control so much of the truth community and everything else. So, it can be very scary. I've really spent a lot of time with this, and when I first woke up, that was one of my things too. Was I wanted everybody. Oh my God, I gotta wake everybody. I gotta tell everybody everything, and that's a natural thing. It's something everybody goes through when they wake up. But I learned over time that you can't wake everybody up, and sometimes if you look like a rational person, if you go to the store all the time, and the store clerk or whatever, and you want to share some information with them. Well, I mean, if they see you as a normal person and you have everyday conversations with them, they're going to be more susceptible to listening to you. And then, if, you get into a topic about politics or something else, you can maybe touch on a certain subject to maybe feel them out to see how awake they are. Because if they're totally not awake and you sit there and tell them, there's old grand design, the CFR, the Trilateral Commission, all this and that, and the Rand Institute, and you start getting really into detail about it, they're going to look at you like you're nuts.
Well,
so you got to kind of feel them out, and, you can plant some seeds and get them to where they start asking questions. I would say it's like, one of the best ways to wake somebody up that if you're big into chemtrails, if you're outside with somebody, you look up in the sky, and there's a big plane you're flying by with spit out chemtrails. You ask them what that is. They might say, oh, that's chemtrails. And then, good, you're already there. But they might say, I don't know. Well, maybe we should find out together, let's go look online. And then, you type in, smoke coming out of an airplane. Of course, it'll probably pop up as chemtrails. Then, oh, look, it's chemtrails. What's that? Let's read more about it. And that's a good way to get into the whole chemtrail thing. And versus trying to say, hey, there's chemtrails, they're poisonous with aluminum in the sky. They're going to look at you like you're crazy. So sometimes asking people a question, what do you think? What do you think that is? Why do you think this is? Do you think you're trying to do this? And that's sometimes the best way to go into it.
Or you need to get it. Or you need to have me get it.
Mm-hmm. Well, it is. I mean, that's an idea of how you can handle that, but we have, actually, I look at it, we're in a really scary time.
Yeah, we are in a scary time. Yeah, that's for sure.
And I don't know how many, the sad thing is I see so many people that just, what we talk about is so far above their head, or they're just not totally awake, and you have different levels of being awake. I mean, I really don't know what to say outside of what Jerry's saying, which is pretty true. Is John still with us?
Yeah, I'm here. I'm just listening.
Okay, I just wondered if you had any input.
I'm right.
I remember when I was talking with Warren about these types of things. He was like, you gotta be really careful of who you talk to these kind of things sometimes, because if things were to go down, they could turn your way or write you up. Oh yeah, this guy's a bit suspicious. He was talking to me about this. You know what I mean? Like, you gotta be careful, I guess, when you talk to about these things. You can't. Sometimes you just can't talk with everyone about it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I know what you're saying.
You know what I'm trying to say?
Well, yeah, I know what you're saying. You get attacked from all ends, and when you're talking to people about this, you might get attacked talking to them. I mean, you might lose your job. You might have bad things come upon you because you told the truth. Because the truth hurts, especially a lot of people that don't understand they've been lied to their whole life. They don't want to accept the fact they've been lied to their whole life. That becomes a hard pill for a lot of people.
Yeah. I mean, I think when it comes down to it, you kind of have to figure it out on your own as far as who is worth speaking to. Because there's some people that no matter what you tell them, how much evidence you give them, you can't change their minds. Just so I guess you could say they're damaged beyond repair.
That's actually a good way of putting it, I try not to get into it too much when it comes to religion. I understand the Bible's a written script, but if you take somebody that their upbringing was with a family that was in church every single week, maybe their dad was a pastor or they were close friends with the pastor and they went to church their whole life from the time they were a little kid up, you're not going to take that belief away from them, and I don't care how much you throw at them and calling them names and getting mad, you're just wasting your time. If you can get them to wake up to other things and see what's going on and stand with the right thing to stop the corruption, then at least you're going to get somewhere. But you can't think that you're going to take people's faith or what they grew up in their whole life and just rip that away from them, tell how they're blah, blah, blah. Because when you do that, you actually, you end up losing because you cannot do that. You have to be willing to understand that we're all individual human beings, but also understand if somebody's grown up in a very religious environment their whole life, you're not going to change that. If you're going to wake that person up, you're going to have to accept the fact that that's what they believe and don't go near that topic with them and talk about other topics with them.
Yeah.
I gotta thank Jason out there from 153news.net. Everybody should go there. He just disabled commenting for me, but he disabled commenting on the whole site. I told him he didn't have to do that, so hopefully he doesn't do that.
He disabled commenting on the whole site.
yeah, he disabled the whole commenting on it everywhere, which is, which is. I guess it was cool. He's trying to do the right thing for me, but I don't want everybody else to not be able to have the comments. Maybe he's just doing it until he can figure out how to pull everybody's IP out of there. I don't know. Whatever he's doing, but I gotta thank him for that because that was nice of him. And he finally seeing that these people are actually trolling me like crazy. He saw it once I sent him that. He saw it right away. So. That's nice of him.
Well, that's just it, that's just it. You're being attacked, and you're being attacked by somebody that don't want to be busted and held accountable, and they know they're a criminal, okay, and so they're attacking you hard.
Yeah.
YouTube wouldn't do that. I mean, it's like yesterday when you first got flagged, I laughed, because what that happened, the person, the troll who flagged you, thought, well, good, now I'll get his video taken down, and instead it got put as the featured video. I laughed hard when Jason did that, because that was awesome. Sad thing was this morning he took it down.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he's seeing it now, so I mean, it's good. He's seeing it. He's seeing that, and and he was actually right because the discussion I had with Jason was, I wanted to get rid of him right away. And he says, no, just because I got your back, and let's let these people talk, and they're going to hang themselves. And he was right. That's exactly what they did. And he was right. Sometimes, that's the thing about these people. They're so evil and disgusting. They can't help themselves. They have to keep on going. They have to slam you somehow. They can't help themselves. So, I mean, sometimes you got to shut up and let them hang themselves. And sometimes we get so emotional over something, which let's just get rid of them, whatever, or whatever it is. Sometimes when you're dealing with idiots, there's a good chance they're going to hang themselves if you just give them enough rope. So, Jason, I think, was right on that call, and he was right,
Mm-hmm.
I just hope he doesn't turn off all the commenting for too long or what happens. People, people need the right to comment, and I told him that. So, hopefully, that's because I don't want to be, it's Jerry's fault we can't comment now.
No,
But at least he's, watching my back, and and they're not going to be able to do that. So,
Yep. I didn't necessarily agree with Zach here. I'm sorry. I mean, I like Zach. I think Zach's a great guy. He's very knowledgeable, okay? But I don't agree with him here. That's just one of these things, I can't agree with him there. People ain't going to think that we're mentally ill because we talk to these people. I don't know them personally. If you're ever, if you're ever gonna stop what's going on in this world, the first thing you have to do is you got to realize you got to let people be who they are.
No, I think Zach. I want to show Zach because I saved Zach. Got the same kind of things that I got. They were saying the same exact thing to me, saying that I think Zach's talking was weird, and it was just bizarre because guy even seemed like he knew the amounts and shit, which was really scary. So I want to show Zach the accounts, what my troll was saying, and see if it matches up with his troll, because they would not stop. And he's right when he says all day multiple accounts were trolling Jerry Slow online. That's the same exact thing they were doing to me, and it was multiple accounts. And it was weird. It was just really weird. I even mentioned something to Zach today about it because they sent me one message that looked really weird. It was really freaking weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, on that part I agree with. I just didn't agree with the other one. I don't think that,
Well, that's the tough thing, Zach, is, we love you and we love the other guy. And then we love, we love Jason. He's been very supportive and everything. And so have you. And it sucks because we know you guys don't get along. And we'd love to see you get along. And it puts us in a shitty situation. It puts me and Bill me and Bill talked about it. It puts us in a shitty situation. Because it's like we want to see everybody get along. And both of you guys have such good, strong personalities. It's like, if Zach and Sidehorn can get together, we can accomplish some serious shit because they're very strong personalities. The only problem is they're they're both so big personalities, they clash. And it sucks. And it sucks because, we like them both. And both of them have treated, Zach has treated me great, and so has Sidehorn. Especially Granny. And, and it sucks. It sucks that, you guys are fighting, and, it sucks because, me and Bill love you both. And, we get caught in the middle of this, and it really just sucks.
Well, that's it. Jerry said it right. I like Zach. I think Zach's a very smart man. And he has a lot of great knowledge. He really does, and he's got some awesome ideas. Okay, but I've seen some good work from Sidethorn, and I've seen some good work from Granny, and I think Jason's done a good thing trying to give a platform for people who's getting kicked off YouTube to where they're not going to be getting kicked off, and they can put the truth out there. So
that's the thing, if we can all figure out how to get together and just squash the bullshit. Because when we really look at it, it's basically, it's bullshit. It's not that important stuff.
It's not.
We're arguing. You guys are arguing over.
And this infighting like this, well, with this kind of infighting, what the results will be is you won't be able to pull. People won't stand together because they'll be too busy fighting each other, and the people are trying to stop will still win.
Yeah, Zach wants to, get his media going and everything else, and just imagine if we all can actually get together, the force we would be. We'd be a powerful force, and that's what we need right now. But instead, we're fighting with each other, And me and Bill, it kind of sucks because we feel like we're stuck in the middle, and it's not like we like one over the other, and it just sucks. It sucks for me and Bill because we want to see everybody get along, and I don't know how to get everybody to quash their differences.
Well, that's it. You know what? It does suck because it's like they're tugging at us. Because you think about Zach's statement towards me and Jerry, okay, that we're going to associate with 153, we could be considered mentally ill, okay? But yet people who don't like Zach will say the same thing to us. If you're going to associate with Zach, you could be mentally ill. All that is division.
And that's the big thing that I noticed is the trolls came through is they wanted a clash. They want a clash. They were trying to get me pissed at Zach, and which made no sense whatsoever. And they're trying to get everybody fighting with each other. And I almost think it's some of these shills that are somehow infiltrating and getting everybody mad at each other because if we're mad at each other, then we're not getting together and actually pulling off something. We're not growing. We're not making a difference. It's just like all the bullshit that I got trolled about my protest. It made no sense whatsoever. But they wanted people to clash about it. They wanted there to be a problem when there wasn't a problem. So
that's it.
They don't want us getting together. They don't want us, being a powerful force to reckon with. And we could be. We really could be.
I've had people tell me, well, Zach's blah, blah, blah already. And I just blow them off because I like Zach. I think Zach's doing a great thing. Okay? I'm not going to hold somebody against somebody because somebody else don't like somebody. The thing is we have to nip the division in the ass. We have to be able to put our differences to the side and work for the same cause. Because if we can't do that and the division wins, divide and conquer wins, they win, we lose.
And I know it's not easy. That's, I'm just talking to Bill. He's been fighting division for what, 30 years now?
Well, I've been fighting division for a long time, and I'll tell you what, we have a very bad situation because when you're up against division, people don't understand it. Even the genders, and that's a real hard one. When I talk about the division between men and women, a lot of people get offended because they don't want to hear it. But if you're ever going to stop the division, you have to hear it, recognize what we're doing to one another, and we have to be able to pull ourselves back together. Because,
I wish I knew what to do to help, because I know we all, listen, we're all going to have our differences. Well, that's always going to happen. Just because we're all truthers doesn't mean we have to like each other. But we all, whether it's religious or whatnot, it breaks down to it when we comes down to what our fight is. Our fight is against a elite order of psychopaths. And, we have a common goal to do the best to change the world for a positive reason. We want to make the world a better place. And we want to get rid of, the insane hierarchy. And, we're going to have differences, but we're going to have to let some of those differences go. We have to push those aside so we can get together and go after one goal, a goal of positive change and changing this world. And as long as we hate each other for, maybe the reason is a good reason, maybe the reason is a bad reason, but it's still not a good enough reason to not change the world for the better. There is nothing that is more, that is such a horrible thing that we can't overlook if we want to change things for the better. That's the way I look at it. And it sucks when me and Bill are caught in the middle because we love both you guys. We love, all you guys. And, and it sucks because I wish there was like some, magic wand where I can make everybody like each other or whatever. I don't have that, and I don't know what to do. But, if we can at least get you guys to come to some common ground, maybe see that the most important thing is changing the world for the better. That would be great. You know, we can forget about the other bullshit. Let's, you know, if you guys want to fight all you want, but let's do it after we make a positive change for the world. Then you guys can duke it out all you want. You know, I'll even sell tickets to the major fight, okay? Whatever we have to do. But right now, can we worry about changing this world for the better and get over, you know, maybe some of the stuff that we don't get along with each other now, you know? It's just something, you know, I mean, I thought, you know, when I first met Bill, some of the gender issues and whatnot were just silly. Until I took the time to learn and listen. And, you know, what I did? He opened my eyes to a lot of different things. But if I refused, if I just thought, well, that's just weird, that's just stupid, and ignored it, I never would have gotten a chance to know Bill as well as I have. And I would have never learned what I have. You know? So I still disagree with some of the certain gender things and whatnot, differences, but that doesn't mean that I wasn't able to create a good relationship with Bill that, you know, where we both have a common goal of wanting to make things better. You know, because that's more important than any differences that we can have.
No, well, my main fight has been to stop the division. And the gender issue is a very hard one because you get slammed regardless of which way you go. You can be a woman hater real quick just because you spoke up. And then again, at the same time, you get slammed by the same gender. But it's all been deliberately done. It's done by design. And that's why I try to get both genders to see through the BS and to come back together again. Stopping the division is my main thing because everybody should love everybody. You know, just because you don't get along with somebody don't mean you have to hate their guts. You don't got to be their friends. You don't got to live with them. But can't you work together for the same goal? Because if you can't work together for the same goal, how are we going to beat these people? Because these people ain't infighting with each other. They wouldn't be where they're at right now.
Well, I mean, that's the whole thing. Their whole big thing is, if you ever read about them or anything else, is, you know, they have their fight, and they fight with each other. The two different sides and everything else. But when it comes down to it, why so much of the secrecy never gets revealed is because they have a certain common goal, and they're all going towards that common goal. We need to deflect that common goal or knock that common goal out that they have so we can insert our common goal better, you know, a better place on earth, or just making it a better place for the kids to actually have maybe a chance before they get turned into robots in the next 10 years. You know, that's what I care about. I like to, you know, I mean, sometimes I think, well, maybe we can't slow them down, but we can't beat them, but we can slow them down. You know, it'd be nice that I'd like to see my nephew maybe not, you know, be so brainwashed by the time he's an adult that, you know, I can't even communicate with him anymore. I'd like them to see that he has a little bit of a childhood or something like that before they go too over the board with stuff. You know, before they sink them in the games to the point where, you know, they can't even lift up their head to talk to you. You know, I would like to see, you know, just some of that. And even if we're just slowing them down a little bit, that can make a difference.
Well, it does, you know. But, you know, even with the gender issue, bringing the genders back together saves a lot of things. You know how many children in this country are growing up without a dad or without a mother? I mean, how many children have, a woman has 3, 4 kids and all by different fathers? And none of the fathers are in their life? And all the fighting amongst the men and women? Don't people realize that stuff was deliberately done? That it's all been deliberately? It's called divide and conquer and break up the family unit and break down the morals of our society. And all I want to do is bring men and women back together again and give children their mom and their dad and make strong society again to where we can stand together. Because they have caused division on every front all the way across the board. I mean, you know, people think sports is entertainment. Sports was designed to create division. And most people just can't see it.
Yeah. That's why they call them divisions.
Mm-hmm.
We can get over it. That's some of the things I've learned about people is when they're not somehow figuring out how to, implant their heads with division so much, we can actually do good and get along. I've always said this. If they took two people just about from anywhere, and you put those two people in the room, there's more of a chance that they're going to get along than they're going to fight. And if you took two different people from two different places, they didn't know each other. I believe in the common man is good, and I believe they would get along.
I believe most people would get along if they could understand that we're all human beings. We all have emotions, feelings, wants, and needs. And you have to understand that people have been brought up in different cultures. That's why I brought up the religion thing. You get somebody that was brought up in a family that went to church regularly every single week and went to all the church events, you're not going to just take that person out of that environment when they've been doing it their whole life. You have to be willing to let people have their own beliefs. Just because you don't believe it don't mean that you have to fight them over you don't believe what they believe. You have to be willing to let them be them.
I'd love for everybody to believe what I believe, but then the problem with that is that's brainwashing.
It is.
That's mind control. Having people believe what you want them to believe is brainwashing.
It is. And then you're doing exactly what the elite have done. That makes you no better than the elite.
And that's not good. That's what makes each individual special. That's what makes each person special is that they have different beliefs. They have different ideas. That's the new age they would love to turn us into, where everybody's just thinking the same and being the same robotic person. We need, differences with acceptance versus division with hatred.
Exactly.
And people don't understand that. We have to appreciate people's differences and not divide us.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it.
People can have differences, and we can appreciate and love them for their differences, and not be so divided. It's just not easy to do, and it sucks. It sucks. It really does suck, though.
Well, yeah. Right now, Jerry and I are getting pulled because when Zach makes comments like that, I like Zach. I think Zach's a very smart man. I think he has a lot of potential. I really do. But at the same time, I like Cythorn and I like Granny, and I respect Jason for putting that platform up. He didn't have to spend out that money. He spent a lot of money putting these servers up and putting this site together so people could have a spot to go. To tell truth without being thrown off and striked. Even when he took Jerry's video down, he didn't give Jerry a strike and say, you got 2 more strikes and you're out of here. He didn't do that. Okay, so, the guy's doing something from his heart because he's trying to do what he feels is right. It's like Zach's doing what Zach's doing because he's trying to do from his heart what he feels is right. And I don't want to be turned back and forth.
On the other side, I agree with Zach on on some of the things. I'm not crazy about certain beliefs that they have, but that's not my business. That's if they want my business. Not my business what people want to believe. That's just never been my thing. I don't care what people believe. I make fun of Mormons and stuff like that, but if I like the person, I'm not gonna hold it against them.
That's exactly it. This is why it's important for people to allow other people their own belief. Let them be them. And stand together and fight for the same fight we're fighting against what's going on in this world.
Yeah, if Zach was able, man, he would take freaking 153 News to a whole new level. And instead we got to fight, and it's not necessary. It really is not necessary. I wish there was some way to bring everybody together, and I just don't know how to do it, Bill. I really don't.
I know.
It bothers me because I want everybody to get along. And this, because we are in this really ridiculous fight. If you really think about it, we're fighting against just this ridiculous shit that's been going on in our world for way too long.
You know how many people you could bring together? Just imagine this. The amount of people who follow Cy Thorne and Granny, and the amount of people who follow Zach, and the amount of people who followed me over the years, if all these people was to be able to come together, we would be building an unstoppable force. We could actually turn things around.
And you know what? And that's what they would love. These outside trolls and shills and everything else, they would love to see us fight. And it's ridiculous. And because we fall for their bullshit, it's silly. It's silly, and I don't know. I just wish I could think of something. I just don't know what,
I'm not sure myself. I just hope that Zach is listening to what we've said here, and I hope he gives it some thought, and I hope that Cy Thorne would listen to what we're saying here and give it some thought, and if they could put their differences to the side. Because I think there's a lot of great potential from all of these guys. I don't hate any of you. I've never done nothing to you. You've never done nothing to me. But you have great work. You have great ideas. You have great knowledge. Zach's really good at what he does. And I applaud him for that. Okay? But the thing is the infighting has to stop because we can never win if we stay divided.
We may never win no matter what, but at least, maybe we built something by getting along, it's it's supposed to be an age of enlightenment, even though it's, we don't want it to be their age of enlightenment, but, we gotta think more about our cause than we gotta think about ourselves. And that's a tough thing to do sometimes, like I've always said, ego is important because that's what protects us. They want to destroy our ego a lot of times and, fill it with, some fascia. But, we also have to get over some things. And that's not always easy to do. Trust me, I've had to get over so many things in my life. I really have. I've gone through a lot, just to get where I am today. I always said, people always ask me that question, don't you wish that you had normal legs and this or that? And I always say no. It's given me a chance to see people for who they are. It's made me tough. It's made me me. And I'm proud of who I am. So when people like that guy, the troll, says what they say, it doesn't bother me because I know who I am. And I know, I'm not a shady, evil person like that. And, I always has never really been easy for me. There's a lot of stuff I've had to get over. But I got over it. And I've been able to get on with my life and be happy. And it sucks when you want to make other people happy and you don't know what to do. But, we can get there. We just, got to figure out how to maybe take baby steps to get there, and at least try. Here's the thing is, maybe certain people will just never get along. And that's fine. But why don't we at least, try once? Try. And if it doesn't work, then at least you could say you tried. And that was my whole thing, even with the protest, is, I wanted to be able to know that I did something.
Well, that's it. And Jerry never told anybody he was going to Sandy Hook School. Matter of fact, he said he was not going to Sandy Hook. So for all you idiots that are mad at him for not going to Sandy Hook School, well, the school, the phony baloney shooting that didn't happen in, they tore that down, by the way, like they did the Trade Centers. They hauled it off right away. They
Why
just
would I
want to
go
screw down
there?
right
They
away.
had police cars there waiting for me.
Yeah. He can go to the same area. There's all kinds of spots he can go. He can't help it if there's a carload of trolls wearing funny masks and acting like weirdos running around looking for him.
And you know, these trolls are mad because they couldn't find me because I snuck in there. They're mad because I didn't tell them they literally were going nuts, asking me nonstop the whole day that I was going down there. Where are you? Pretending you were this person or that person. And I didn't tell nobody. I didn't tell nobody where we were going until we got there. Bruce didn't even know where we were going until we pulled in. He was just following me. And then I said, here we are. And that's where we went. We went to the busiest, most high traffic area in that area. And it was constant cars nonstop. So we went to a very visible area, and they got pissed because everywhere they thought I was going to be is not where I was. And that's exactly what I wanted to happen. So, I did exactly what I wanted. Bill knew I told him ahead of time. I said, they're going to be looking for me here, there, wherever else. I said, nobody's going to know, and I'm going to sneak right in and sneak out. And they're pissed. They're pissed. The people are pissed. Because they wanted to, who knows, maybe throw paint on us or whatever they wanted to do. And they didn't get away with it because I outsmarted them. And that's what they're mad about.
And they had a temper tantrum.
Whatever.
What you forgot to do was bring them back some diapers, and some wipes for them, and a baby bottle.
That's what they're mad at. They're mad I didn't pull it off. Why I did pull it off. They're mad about it.
But back to reality, the real reason they're mad is because they don't want to be held accountable for what they've done. They know how wrong what they did is.
Oh, yeah. And trust me, going to the high traffic area like I did, and I think that really pissed them off. I think because they even said, we're going to stop you or, you're not going to hand anything out. And we'd gotten, I don't know how many, we probably got into a couple thousand people's faces just with everybody driving by and driving out next to us and talking to us and everything else. We were probably pretty visible. And I don't think they liked that. I don't think they liked how visible we were. But, here's the thing is I knew the area. I knew where to go. And I knew how to get in there and get out of there real quick if needed. And that's exactly what we did. We got in there and we stayed until it started to get a little hot where, people were screaming at us and, it looked like they were calling the police. And we left. We went to go pass out flyers. And that's what they're mad about. They're mad I outsmarted them. The trolls don't, they think they're smart, and they can create division, they can create a war, they can cause all these problems. And when you outsmart them, they don't like it. They don't like it at all. But whatever. Good for them. Fuck them. That's the way I look at it. Too bad. You guys weren't smart enough to figure out what I was going to do. Good. You know what? And you know what? The next time we go there, I'll still out freaking fool them. Because, all these trolls and people from San Diego that got involved in this stuff, I never seen them when I was younger. They look all like new people to me. I'm old school. I knew that area. I was out smoking pot in those woods before they freaking ever moved there. So I know my way in and around better than they do. And speaking of, me and Bill, I don't remember how long ago, it must have been maybe 3 or 4 months ago, Bill, that I showed you those microwave transmitters in Sandy Hook.
Mm-hmm.
And anybody wants to see them, I found these really bizarre microwave antennas that, basically fence off the whole town of Sandy Hook. And they lay very low to the ground. And they're really bizarre antennas. And I honestly think, more me and Bill talked about it, I think they're doing something with these antennas to influence minds or whatever, but it's the most bizarre. Because, like I told you just earlier in the show, I worked at a radio station as an intern, I worked in the engineering. I understand what different types of antennas look like, and these antennas scare me, because the way they're low to the ground, so they're not meant for cell phones or anything like that, or transmitting, some kind of radio or TV station or anything like that. They're, very expensive, high-tech design, large, low-to-the-ground antennas. And they're microwave type. They're designed as, newer type of microwave transmission, So I do think they're transmitting something to this area. And I talked to Jim Fester about this. I think some kind of weird fence that they're using, and I don't know if it's for mind control. I don't know if it's for what really, because I don't know enough about it. But they're really bizarre antennas that they literally encapsulated the whole area.
Well, we do know that they got programs going on for mind control, and it's been going on for years, and they've not stopped it. And their goal is to be able to control the minds of everybody. And when you have a bunch of psychopaths that have the ability and the technology behind them and are working to control everybody's mind, to control everybody, then I wouldn't be surprised to find out what Jerry saw these microwave is just exactly for that. I would not be surprised to find that out because from everything I've seen and what I've studied, I know for sure that they've already laid a big TV antenna across the entire United States and they're using it. And they're using it to attack us. And I don't care what people say, that's what they're doing. And I can go back 5-6 years ago, and I can remember how people used to always call into the show, and how many people came together and talked. And now here we are 5-6 years later, and you're scared to get anybody. Everybody's afraid. Everybody's so disconnected they don't even want to talk. They'll talk, but they won't talk. They won't call in. They don't want their voice to be heard,
Oh, it's funny. Four World Peace talking about the Rothschild buying Reuter. Now, it's interesting. Another thing I learned from working at an air station was, what they had a rule, and they needed, back in the day, they actually had to verify your sources to a story. That was, you had to verify it twice. And your main feeds on who you verify it with is Reuters and AP. Now, back in the day, they had, teletypes. Basically they had like printers that just fed out with the news feed, constant news feed that fed out the news. And there was always two of them in every radio and TV station that was a major station. And one of them was the AP and one of them was Reuters. And, if it was a very important story, what you had to do is you couldn't just take the story from one of them, you had to verify it with the other one, wait until it came out of the machine. Nowadays they do that. I don't even think they verify the stories. If it's something they want to put out there, they just put it out there. But it was still interesting even back then that these supposed trusted sources are run by the Rothschilds. So that's even scary in its own right. Now, I think back then when I trusted so much from these machines, what the news was supposed to be, and it was owned by the Rothschilds, which scared the heck out of me that they've had a lot of control on what people understand as news for a very long time,
Keep us going there for a minute, Jerry.
Yeah.
Mother Nature's yelling my name.
Well, I'd like to find out if anybody out there actually knows a little bit about antennas or or some of this high tech stuff, because I'd like to show them some pictures of these weird microwave antennas that I found and get some more information about them, because they seem to be really hard to get the information about them because nothing matches up with them. I've never seen anything like them before. But the way they're structured, I don't know if people understand how Sandy Hook is. It's basically tucked into a corner between a river, all right? And the river splits right before Sandy Hook. But in other words, it goes downstream. So the fork is above Sandy Hook. And Sandy Hook's just below the fork. And the stream goes all the way down, all the way out to the ocean. but there's a couple of dams beforehand. Well, it's tucked in the corner against the river. There's pretty big ridge line that's right before the river. So it's pretty steep that goes down to the river. So at the top of this ridge line, there's these weird microwave antennas that basically, encapsulate the town. And it's kind of scary because I can't figure out, anything else they would be used for other than mind control or something like that, because they're not for cell phone use, that's for sure. They're not for TV use. And why else would you have them in a residential neighborhood that's just in Sandy Hook? I've looked all over, and I can't find these antennas anywhere else besides the Sandy Hook area. And it literally encapsulates, and the closest neighborhood it encapsulates is where all these parents live, where Adam Lanza supposedly live. So that whole neighborhood is where it's right at, and it encapsulates the whole area. So it's kind of weird.
Good. Thank you, Jerry.
Yeah, no problem.
I hate that when Mother Nature's yelling your name and you can't do anything about it.
Well, when I go. I would insert an old person joke here, but I love Bill. Okay, I'm not gonna get bust balls.
Old person, come on, I'm getting younger, alright?
Yeah, you always.
Yeah, I have young timers.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know. That's another problem that scares me. They're freaking. If we have these chemicals or whatever, whether they're vaccines or what's in the air that's promoting Alzheimer's, how much worse are they going to make it to the point where we don't remember anything anymore? We're just basically robots.
Oh, go ahead, John.
I heard it's linked with aluminum.
Well, yeah, I've heard that.
A lot of those canned foods. A lot of those canned foods and stuff that people eat. And if you eat less quantities from canned foods, it can increase your chances of developing it. I'm sure it's also hereditary, but.
I seen a report on Alzheimer's once. I can't remember where I saw it, and I can't say how accurate it is, but I'm going to tell you what I saw, okay? It showed the cholesterol pill that people take for their heart, and it showed that the cholesterol pill is removing the cholesterol, right? And then they showed the human brain. And in between every section of the human brain is loaded with cholesterol. And when this pill's taken, it removes the cholesterol from around the heart and from the brain. And once enough cholesterol is removed from the areas of the brain, that certain cells in the brain start crossing each other and short circuiting, and that's what causes Alzheimer's. Now, I can't say that's true or not. I'm just telling you what I saw.
Yeah, they're even saying that people are developing that at an earlier age than usual. Like, I remember I was listening to the radio in the car, and there was an infomercial on the radio that said something along the lines where if you had these type of symptoms from age 30 and up, get checked for Alzheimer's.
I
guess
wouldn't.
they wanted to do a test to see maybe if you might develop it. I'm just thinking to myself, 30 years old. To even get symptoms at that young age is pretty scary.
Yeah.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if it's linked to Big Pharma somehow.
Yeah, there's another weird occurrence. There was a kid that lived near me when I was living in Michigan, and the kid was like 24, 25 years old. This kid ran every day, perfect. This kid didn't drink, no drugs. He looked like a picture of health. And I remember asking one of the kids what happened to him. He just kind of disappeared. He said he had a heart attack and died. I said, what are you kidding me? The guy was like a picture of health. How the hell did he have a heart attack and die at 24 years old? That blew my mind.
Unfortunately, a person can have a heart condition and not know it. Okay, my youngest brother was born with a heart condition, and they didn't find it until he was 10, about 10, 8 or 9. And when he was 10 or 11, he had to go in and have surgery. They had to wait till he got a little older to do the surgery because it was found when he was young. But the doctors clearly said if it hadn't been found, he would have dropped dead of a heart attack maybe in high school when he was going out for sports.
Hey, Bill.
Yeah.
I just wanted to give you a heads up. Warren's going to be calling in soon, so he's going to be joining us.
Oh, he is he?
Yeah, you know, like 5 minutes, Warren's gone.
He's going to call in when the show's over. That's awesome. And there he is, too, by golly.
Oh, there you go.
Well, he's got like 9 minutes. Hello, Warren.
Hey, Bill, what's up, man?
Now you got about 9 minutes. We've been having a pretty good show here.
So what are we talking about tonight?
Well, we got, just recently, we got a little bit into the, microwave mass brainwashing and everything else, and I was talking to...
Jerry's not coming through very good, man. I mean, I can kind of hear him. I listen really hard, but I can't hear him that well.
Can you hear me better now?
No? A little bit, though. At least because maybe sometimes it's my phone. It's just whatever it is. So you say something again now?
Yeah, I'm here now. Is it better?
Okay, I hear you better than this here. I don't know. My phone's funny a lot of that, man.
It's the connection.
I can hear you. I can hear Jeremy pretty well, so.
Yeah, I was talking about, like, a while back, I was showing Bill, I found these weird microwave transmission towers in Sandy Hook, and they were low to the ground, so they're not used for cell phone, they're not used for TV or anything like that. And they encapsulate the area of Sandy Hook really bizarrely. And where they are basically surrounding the neighborhood where most of these kids live, supposedly. But I mean, the microwave transmitters low to the ground is not supposedly, but that's for sure. I found them. But, I really want to know more about it because, what if they are using them for mind control? I mean, how is Sandy Hook a test city? Because when I found, like, when I was
looking down the league of harm, it sounds to me like it sounds like it would be an ionospheric type of weapon.
Well, I mean, the thing is, they're low to the ground. What I did is when I got a ground shot of it, they're no taller than, say, 12 feet from the ground, okay? So, and they're in the woods, which is really bizarre. They're in the woods, and they're 12 feet from the ground. So, they're not above the tree line, so they wouldn't be used for any type of cell phone or anything like that, and it's just really bizarre. They're Warren, I mean, I'll have to email you a picture of them so you can see them. It's just they're really bizarre.
Yeah. You got my email address, right?
Yeah, I'll have Bill give it to me.
Yeah. Yeah, man, that does sound interesting, man. It could be connected to heart, man, theoretically. I mean, because heart's got many properties. Okay, mind control is one of them. They can alter people's psychological and emotional states through the ionospheric weapon technology they got. Just as an ionospheric weapon, right? It can, be used in conjunction with chemtrails.
The thing about these,
it can be used to alter weather conditions.
I worked in a radio station before, and the thing about these transmitters is I know for a fact they're transmitters, but there's nothing receiving from a distance. So in other words, they have nothing connect to receive anything. So it would have to be some kind of local transmission. It would have to be something that they can wirelessly send from a local house or from driving by, but there's nothing that would be able to receive a transmission. It's something that's just broadcasting, which is really weird about them.
Yeah, the thing is, like a lot of ionospheric weapons like that, though, man. Correct me if I'm wrong on this. I might be a little bit wrong, but I mean, a lot of this is relying on various. It isn't necessarily relying on energy sources that are like
that are for
like.
I understand what you're saying.
Like solar power and things like that. I mean,
I know these things are powered up. They're all close to a street. What do you call it? Transformer. So I found their power sources. So I see that that they have local power, and it looks like each one of them has a battery generated backup, some kind of backup generator. And that's one thing I noticed about them. So they have a backup generator, and they look like they're just transmission, and they're not receiving any kind of signal from afar. So they're just, you have to see them. They're really bizarre.
Sounds more like a microwave.
Yeah, I can imagine, man.
Sounds more like a microwave.
How horrified I was when I started seeing all these cell phone towers popping up all over the place. I was one of the few people that actually knew what that was, and I had no way of explaining it to people because then I was just going to think, oh, he's crazy, he's bad shit, I don't know what he's talking about.
Well, Warren, it sounds more like a microwave weapon. It sounds more like a microwave weapon.
Yeah, I mean, what's scary is, have you ever taken apart a microwave and taken the magnetron out of it, right? Well,
yeah.
These antennas are shaped like the box almost that contains the magnetron without the actual magnetron in it. So unless it's an internal magnetron, but it's I just don't see any kind of point to it. So it's not directional. It looks like it covers more of a wide area.
But see, that would fit more with HARP too, man, because I mean, you think about the fact that HARP is a weapon, and one of its many functions is to control weather, right? And what you're basically describing here is like pretty much like turning our Earth into a giant microwave.
Yeah, I mean, it could be.
Which of course could be used to sell global warming.
Yeah, but they only have them in this particular area, just around Sandy Hook. Can't find them anywhere else. And there's like 3 of them that are on a line that basically encapsulate the town. But it's like it's unidirectional. So it's like they come across a ridge line and they face away from the ridge line across the town, and that's it.
And have they found it in any other parts of the world, or is it just one area?
I'm on Google Maps all the time. I've never seen these anywhere else besides Sandy Hook.
Okay, yeah.
Some
of the places I would imagine looking at now would be other places where there have been school shootings, like in Columbine High or Virginia Tech.
Yeah, I tried that, and I didn't find any. But that doesn't mean they're not there. I just might not have looked enough of those places. But I did look at a few other school shooting places, and I didn't find them anywhere else besides Sandy Hook.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's interesting, man.
I think just like, like I told Bill in the past, I think how Kalamazoo was almost like a test city, where they're constantly doing these false flags. I think Sandy Hook may be another experiment, to be honest with you.
And I have a theory, too, man. This is going to be a wild theory, man. I mean, but I have reason to suspect, I can't concretely prove this, but I have reason to suspect that what I can prove is that there's layers of underground tunnels. There's an entire world literally beneath our feet that goes all around the world. Right. I mean, you're like 60 kilometers beneath our feet, 100 beneath our feet, 100 underground military installations and bunkers and shit like that. I mean,
there are tunnels in Sandy Hook. There are tunnels in that Sandy Hook. And matter of fact, a friend of mine's been in them. Under the old Fairfield Hospital, which is less than a mile from the Sandy Hook Hospital, or from the Sandy Hook School, there's tunnels. Matter of fact, I have a picture of one of the tunnel entrances. So, I mean, it's not even a question that the tunnels are there. There are tunnels under Sandy Hook. I know that from a fact. That's not
I know that.
Yeah.
60 seconds.
Well, guys, you're down to the last minute.
But my theory is this, man. Do you think it's possible theoretically, that there could be entire towns down there that are being suppressed.
I mean, here's the weird thing. I mean, some of the things like with Sandy Hook, I've been really hesitant to talk about because, it's like one of those things. I know the area really well, and I don't always want the people out there to know what I know. So I've been hesitant to talk about some things, but I can say this much. They can't have total tunnels everywhere because there's an aquifer under Sandy Hook and a good
10 seconds.
Okay, we're out of time, so Blog Talk goes Warren, John. We're down to our last 2 seconds here, so the show's pretty much over. So Blog Talk just ended. With that being said, we are through with Blog Talk.
Thank you for using Blog Talk Radio. Goodbye.
As you can tell. But we're still live up on YouTube.
Yeah, well, we're going to finish the conversation with that. Is Sandy Hook, I think when you go and once if you went further south into the ridge line, there are caves. I know there's caves in that area, and we know there's tunnels from Fairfield Hospital. So the extent of what they got underground there, I don't know anymore. From back in the day when I was a kid and my friends sneaking down in the tunnels, he told me they're pretty vast tunnels, but nothing like, hearing that there's a city down there. Could there be one? There could be enough under there, because, I mean, some of the research we did when we were looking into the water and this and that, part of the FEMA grants, when they were given grants after the Sandy Hook shooting, we found that they were taking control of the aquifers and they were stopping people from using their own wells. Now, maybe they're stopping the people from using their own wells because they're diverting water to do something underground. Who knows? But there is something nefarious going on with underground in Sandy Hook. That I do understand from what I've read.
Many other places too. I've seen that.
Yeah, well, we know that they have underground projects going, and I wouldn't be a bit surprised to find out instantly all over the world. That wouldn't surprise me any. There's so many secrets kept from people, because you know why, Jerry? It's classified.
Yeah. Well, you know what I mean? When I was at Kalamazoo, we were finding tunnels there too. I mean, matter of fact, where I lived in Kalamazoo was right next to the area where Al Capone used to come up from Chicago and vacation near Lake Michigan, and he had a big underground tunnel system. And Kalamazoo was known for having an underground tunnel system in certain areas. And, it was weird at my old house. I used to complain about it because I kept on feeling like, like the people that I live near, there's, they don't understand what going into the city riding the train is, because there's a certain feeling when you're riding the train, the whole ground kind of, bumps along. And at night, in the middle of the night, it almost felt like my house was shaking when there's no traffic going by, like there was a train going under my house, where it had this rhythm of bouncing like. And it was the most bizarre thing. And I kept on telling people that there's a train under my house. And people looking at me like I'm crazy. But, I mean, when I was younger, living in Connecticut, sometimes, we were kids, we used to sneak into the city, we'd take the metro north and jump on the train. So I know what, the rhythm of a train feels like.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it felt like. It felt like there was a metro train going under my house. And it was the most bizarre thing. And, everybody was looking at me like I'm crazy. I'm like, no, my house is old. Yeah, it shakes. But when 3 o'clock in the morning, there's no traffic on my road whatsoever. Why is my house, feeling like there's a train going under it, and it was just something really bizarre there. So, and if you look at like a direct line from Chicago to the, National Guard in Battle Creek, that direct line would have went right under my house. So if they did have a tunnel going from like Chicago to, Battle Creek to the National Guard, where they flew the drones and everything else, it would have went right under my house.
Yeah.
Not only that is it was a year before the Kalamazoo shooting. We actually had an earthquake in Michigan, And it was really bizarre that because they never had earthquakes in Michigan. And the thing about that was I went to visit cousins in California once, and they had an earthquake there. And I remember what the feeling of an earthquake was. And it was, the earthquake we had in Michigan, we did not feel like the normal earthquake, where there's the earthquake, slowly rumbles, and there's an aftershock. This was a sharp rumble, stopped, and it was a category, or not a category, it was a number 4 or whatever. But what it did do is it actually knocked like some of the nails in my kitchen out of the drywall and some of the screws. So it shook my house, so it literally cracked some of the drywall. So it was really bizarre that we had an earthquake like that, and I still think it was from maybe a tunnel digging machine.
Well, I think a lot of times there are. More times what people think. You have little earthquakes that can go off from fracking operations, if they're fracking for gas. And you also, there's no way you could dig a tunnel like that and not have that happen.
I mean, think about all the earthquakes we've had in areas over the last maybe 5 years or so, or 10 years, where there are earthquakes where there haven't been any for like 100 years. Places like New Hampshire had one, Connecticut had one, New York had one, Michigan had one. I mean, places that never had earthquakes, all of a sudden they had earthquakes. So it was it's something that people need to think about. Why is there all of a sudden earthquakes?
Mm-hmm. And a lot of that can be from, there's no way you could dig a tunnel with that machine and not cause the ground to shake to begin with.
Well, you can think about it. I mean, you got one of those giant tunnel machines, and all of a sudden you come into some hard rock, and you're pushing to get through it. You finally break free, but that rock, might be the size of, a half mile long. It's so big, some of this bedrock, could be a plate that's really large, and you just chip off the side of it. That's going to make the earth move somewhere else. When you hit a rock, sometimes you crack a rock, it cracks on the opposite side, just from the sheer pressure.
Well, the ground that's sitting on top of that rock, the dirt, the soil that's sitting on top of it, it's got to go somewhere. Which means it's going to collapse when you remove that rock or you cut into it. If part of it breaks off, it's going to collapse in that area.
Yeah.
And when it does, that's like the sinkholes. You got sinkholes that just magically pop up, huh?
Yeah, don't you? That's not natural.
Well, I think they're both one and the same.
Mm-hmm. Well, we're living in weird times.
Yeah. Well, anyhow, if you want to call it, Jerry, we'll go ahead and call it tonight.
Yeah, we can call it.
And then I'll be back here again tomorrow night with Warren on TFL dating scene topics and whatever else comes up.
So it's more than 9 minutes.
Right. And then, of course, Thursday night will be Warren's night up and back here on Sunday night with Jerry again. So that's the schedule. Unless something comes up and Jerry and I decide to come live, that has happened before. We're not saying it won't, not saying it will. Never know. Well, with that being said, I guess we'll cut the live feed until next time, everybody. You have a good one.